Hello and welcome to episode 134 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I'm delighted to welcome back, after I think it's about a year and a half or so, Megha. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Tom. It's been great to catch up again after such a long time, but also doesn't feel as long.
Yeah, it's because it's been quite a while because you came on. I think it was a matter. I know we were talking about this a little bit off air, but a matter of weeks after giving
Yeah,
birth, you messaged me to say, "Can I come and do a podcast?" I was like, "Yeah,
yeah,
sure, if you want."
yeah. I think like at that point, it was just wanting to have a bit of an outlet and just feel connected to sort of that new world that we had entered at that point. So it was really helpful, and it was also helpful that you know, given that I'm in Australia and most of my family and friends are in the UK, for them to even just have an understanding and idea of what was going on, because naturally, when that had like we had received Anya's diagnosis, having to explain yourself to friends and family like became quite exhausting after some point. So it was just helpful just to be able to kind of have that. And I was like, hey guys, go and have a listen to this and you'll just sort of know what's happening and going on. So I think that really did help with that too.
Yeah, so we're going to sort of pick up the journey, I guess, from
Yeah.
there because it was
Mm.
January 2025. I'm
Yeah.
recording this now in June 2026. So yeah,
Mm.
best part of 18 months has flown
Yeah.
by. And the good
Yeah.
news, I guess, from the last time we saw you, you are now out of hospital and have been for quite some time, which is
Mhm.
good. I
Yeah.
guess that must have been quite a huge relief to go in the end.
Yeah. So it was a much longer than expected hospital stay, given that we thought we were only going to be there for a couple of weeks. And they had initially suspected that Anya had the short segment, but she didn't have short segment. She ended up having, that total colonic plus. Um, so they needed to keep her in hospital for longer because we had to adjust to life with the stoma and getting the stoma output under control. And then she was also on the TPN. So the plan during then was just to wean her off the TPN and introduce the feeds again and getting the stoma output under control. But during that there were so many ups and downs, and they told us that it wasn't going to be sort of linear progress. There was going to be some good days and some bad days where if the stoma output went slightly higher, then it would set us back a couple of days. And so there was a lot of like back and forth and tweaking, a lot of you know emotional challenges as well, in terms of just trying to get my head around what was happening and what was going on, understanding this, health condition that we had never heard of. Um, Also, like I had no idea what things like TPN was. I had no idea what, like I heard of like stomas and stuff, but I never had to have it as my reality and, do bag changes and learn about different products and working out what was best for her. So when that was all under control, we finally got to go home. I think it was sort of nearly around like 78 days that we had sort of been there. It was very daunting to leave initially because you always had that comfort and support whilst being in the hospital. As hard as it was being there, of just knowing that okay, you can just call a nurse and you have the doctors coming around and seeing you every day. So it was initially very daunting going home, because I remember even doing like the first bag change at home, and I was like close to tears because I was like, how am I going to do this? And then I think by the end of it, when we sort of, got to Anya's second surgery, which, was nearly when she was about 11 months old. So we left hospital when she was about 3 months, and we had her sort of pull through and reversal at 11 months. I was like, I'm like an expert and a pro at doing like bag changes now. So we had like a whole sort of table set up with all of her supplies, and we had like a whole routine of like giving her a shower before, like giving her a shower before, having everything cut and ready and placed out. And it was just like I would be doing things and my husband would be passing me the pieces, and we just sort of like kind of had like a rhythm of how we were doing her bag changes. There were a lot of challenging bag changes as well, because naturally with a crying baby, it's not easy. And it was really hard, like, seeing that, and sometimes, managing the skin around the stoma as well. Anya's stoma was quite prolapsed as well. So as she would get more upset, it would prolapse even more, and then it would go back in because she had the loop ileostomy. So managing that whilst doing a bag change, it was, it was very, very overwhelming.
Definitely, definitely, and I guess with prolapse stomas as well, they're a tough one. There are plenty of people who've told me the sugar trick, where you put sugar on. I don't know if that was
I
told
never
you as
got
well.
around to I never got around to doing that, because I just was told that this is how her stoma was going to be, given that it's the loop ileostomy. And the surgeons at the hospital even said that they could potentially like revise it a little bit. But they're like, there's no guarantee that it won't come back out again. So I just said, look, we just have to accept it and get on with it. But like it's, I've seen some people's stomas where it's just like, the round piece, like sort of just sitting on the tummy, and you can cut your bags out to shape it, and you just know that it's going to always go on. Whereas with Anya's, it just always changed shape. So we couldn't even prepare that much. So we had to always I had to just eyeball how it was looking at that point and hope for the best. And then again, learn a lot of tips and tricks of like different products to use to sort of help it from like not leaking. And then I got to a point where, like, with bags, that I could keep it on for like a couple of days if I got it on really well. So yeah, it became kind of like a fine art in the end, and I was surprisingly good at it. So
I guess it's one of those things you just like we were talking a little bit before about how all Hirschsprung's people are different and how all different journeys are different. I guess the way stomas react are also different as
yes,
well, and I guess you have to just learn as you go, and
yeah,
then sort of as time goes on, you think, oh well, okay, if it looks like this, then I'll do this, or
exactly,
whatever it might be. And I guess that is
yeah.
the, I guess, frustrating sometimes thing with Hirschsprungs, where there isn't necessarily a manual that you follow all the time, and you go,
You
well,
just have to, work it out as
yeah,
you go along on your journey, basically.
exactly. It's not always 1 + 1 = 2. Sometimes it might equal, 9 and make absolutely no sense. So
And then
it's,
other days it is 1 + 1 = 2.
yeah,
Yeah, like we learned over time that her stoma would be smaller in the morning, so we would always do like a bag change early in the morning. So before my husband would go to work, we would say we'll do the bag change then, because like if there were ever times when I'd be home by myself, I was like, what am I going to do if her bag leaks? Because one person would have to like hold the phone and put some TV on for her to keep her distracted whilst doing it. So it was like a two-man job. And then, like we had like a good routine in place. And I think that really helped us make that stoma journey a lot easier.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I think it's two people definitely better than one in that, especially you have a wriggly
Definitely.
baby.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so obviously leaving the hospital, then having to do bag changes and whatnot by yourselves, and managing to get on with that, which is fantastic. But
Yeah.
how has sort of life changed since leaving the hospital?
It was definitely, like I said, initially feeling daunting, like just not having that extra support around you. Because, if there was anything that you slightly, like, for example, if there was anything that I was ever concerned about, and like, say I was in the hospital and going and getting a coffee, like, the team at the hospital are incredible, like the nurses, the doctors, the surgeons, everyone, like, you kind of just become like friends at that point. So like, I remember one day I was like worried about the color of Anya's stoma, and I saw her surgeon just walking in the corridor, and I was like, hey, I'm just a little, and he was like, okay, I'll come and have a look right now. And he literally just came in at that point and had a look, and then he was just like, I know you're going to be worried if I don't, like, tell you that it's okay. So he just came in, had a look, and he's like, everything's fine. You're all good. And I was able to be like, okay, I can relax now. So, you go from like not having that to then going home and just questioning everything and be like, is this okay? Is this not? And then we had to start over time realizing what Anya's normal was. So, is it normal for her to do this? And is it not normal for her to do that? And just make that assessment, which I think over time, like we've gotten quite good at. Initially, there was one or two incidents where there were like things, that I wasn't sure about. And I just thought the best thing would be just to take her into the hospital, which I did. So about like a few times I would just take her in just to get that reassurance. But over time, I've just kind of learned what is normal for her. And, just over time, just with experience, you just get to know that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it is, and I know I've mentioned this term before, but it's trial and error sometimes. And you're just kind of going, okay, well, we did this before, but it is trial and error, but there are times where you'll do the same thing twice, and sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't work. So it is trial and error, sort of, kind of,
Yeah.
especially with total colonic plus, that yeah, it can be wildly different. And with the plus as well, I mean, doing some research in it a few weeks ago, the plus can mean so many different things for people.
Yeah.
What will you ever explain what the plus meant for Anya?
So we were told that most of the time with total colonic, there is some kind of small bowel involvement, which is what takes you then into the plus category, basically. And it could be varying lengths of small bowel. It could be a little bit, it could be a lot, okay bit, and then it could be extensive. So for Anya, we were told that she still had enough small bowel that she wouldn't need sort of any like long-term kind of like TPN support. She was on the TPN whilst we were in hospital, but had she lost more bowel or it was more extensive, then she probably would have needed some TPN support going with that as well. So for her, given sort of it's just the last part of her small bowel, we were just told that for her, it will just mean that we just need to monitor her absorption of certain vitamins and minerals, mostly B12. So that's something that we, for now, have to just monitor every 6 months, just to make sure that her vitamin B12 levels are adequate. And just absorption of a few other things like iron and vitamin D and those things. That's just what we were told, that if you have a shorter amount of small bowel, that you might just need some kind of supplementation with.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess getting nutrients in when you have less bowel. I mean, the same with things like dehydration, I guess, as well. Trying to, because we absorb. Well, everyone with Hirschsprungs will have to be aware of that, because we have basically we have less bowel, we have less absorption.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm guessing that becomes tricky as well.
Yeah, and then yes, of course, naturally the dehydration thing is quite a key one as well. We only had our first sort of real dehydration episode just a couple of weeks ago, actually. So Anya caught a gastro bug, and she just, I think her catching any kind of gastro bug was my biggest fear. And she's caught a few other things, but has managed them okay. But with the gastro, it was just there was just not anything we could really do at home to kind of keep her adequately hydrated, which resulted in us having to take her into the hospital and get her rehydrated. But naturally with the Hirschsprungs, it's not just a straightforward thing of okay, I'm dehydrated, just rehydrate me and I can go home. There's a lot more workup that they need to do just to make sure and rule out that it's not enterocolitis or anything an obstruction in the bowel. So all of those things need to be worked up and crossed off before you can essentially go home. So yeah, that was like our first sort of like big incidents post her leaving hospital the first time round. Actually, and also she had the pull through as well, so that was quite another big hospital visit for us. But yeah, all very interesting experiences.
Yes. Yeah, you said the pull through was done at 11 months, which I
Yes.
think is sort of roughly normal time, isn't it? For
Yeah,
pull through.
so we had like, after being discharged initially, we had like a few appointments with Anya's surgeon. And I think the key thing was just growth, just making sure that she was growing. We were always told that she will grow like a little bit sort of less compared to her peers. Like she won't be like rapidly gaining weight and things, which, she's surprisingly done well in the sense that when she initially was in hospital, she went off the growth charts to now sort of being back on the growth charts and being at a good level on the growth charts. So yeah, we just had to kind of keep going, and then the decision was made that she was ready for it with her weight and development was going well. So yeah, we went for it at 11 months. And then we kind of, we have a really nice relationship with Anya's surgeon. Like he's amazing. And I just requested to him saying that could we please just do it before her first birthday so that we can actually spend the month of her birthday not in hospital, because I was like, I just didn't want to be back there again at that point. So yeah, it was nice that we did it before her first birthday, and then we were home in time for that, and we were able to sort of actually celebrate and not be in hospital environment.
Good. Yeah, you don't want to be in hospital for your birthday if you can
Definitely
help
not.
it at all. You can
Yeah.
help it at all. No, and the pull through surgery itself was successful.
Yes. So they did her pull through and her reversal in one surgery. I know in some cases they do it in two stages where they do the pull through and then the reversal later, but with her they did it all in one. And we had about a week in the hospital where all about the recovery and getting the bowels to wake up after going through so much. It was a very long day from when we had dropped her into seeing her when she had come out of theatre. It was, yeah, we just didn't know which way it was going to go, because there were so many different kind of variables that we were told that she could still come out with the stoma. We might find something in there that we didn't expect. And what I had kind of mentioned, prepared myself, was just to be prepared for anything, which is the thing that I didn't do the first time round. The first time round when they took her in, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she's going to go in for surgery, come out, and we're going to go home in a week or something. But obviously she came out and there were so many different things that had gone down in surgery at that point. So it was just trying to keep that open mind. So I just remember that day of just literally walking around the hospital and just waiting. And then there's a telephone which is outside of the recovery ward that parents can just kind of call and just see oh, is my child out yet? And I remember we just kept going up there and being like, is she out yet? Is she out yet? What's happening? And then just watching the phone, just waiting for that phone call. And yeah, I just remember getting that phone call, and they told us that she's out and she did really well. And then the first thing we asked was just did everything go as they had planned to? And they said yes. And then they said that they were able to do the reversal, they were able to do the pull through. And I just remember bursting into tears, because it was just such a it was just so much emotion coming through. And we would have accepted whatever would be the best thing for her. And we did say that. We had that conversation with the surgeon. We just said, look, if you feel that even her keeping the stoma will be the right thing for her, then we will fully support that. We're not we will go with whatever you recommend. And he said that no, he felt that doing the reversal was the right thing. So we accepted that. And then yeah, just going in and seeing her as well, like after that many hours being away from her was like, it was just such a mixture of emotions again, of like, just the emotion of like what my baby has been through, as to sort of happiness that like it's done. But then you also have to then remind yourself like, okay, we still have a journey to go on after this as well. It's not just like you've had surgery and then off you go and everything is great, which is like a big misconception. Because a lot of people have, like said to me, they're like, oh, but she's had surgery now and everything. And I'm just like, I still have to be very vigilant. I still have to keep on top of things. Like I still have to monitor her in ways that I say wouldn't monitor like my son, for example, who doesn't have Hirschsprung's. So I was like, yes, that's like one part. But now it's like, now the real journey starts, because it's just like, what does this now mean like for us going forward? Because again, there's so many ways that the surgery can go afterwards as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think you're absolutely right there with the misconception. I saw something the other day about Hirschsprung's, and it said, well, once you have surgery, or what was it? The Hirschsprung's can be fixed with surgery, and you think, well, yes and no. Like it's not. Yeah, okay. The initial issues,
Yeah,
potentially. Obviously taking the bad bit of bowel out and
yeah.
sticking two together. Um, but that I wouldn't class that, and I don't think many people, whether you're a parent of someone with Hirschsprung's or whether you have it yourself, would class that as fixed, quote unquote. So
Mm,
you're absolutely right and it, when you say that it's a managed condition, I guess, rather than a right. Well, we've fixed you now. Off you
yeah.
go.
Mm,
But
exactly.
it's I think you yeah, absolutely right with that. I guess also when you're one of the trickiest things, I guess, for parents is waiting the waiting through
Oh
surgery.
my god. Oh,
Um, I mean, I was
like
lucky enough that I was asleep all through my surgery,
yeah.
so I was fine. But
But the families, yeah,
yeah,
like it's the most agonizing. Like it's so slow. The day, like it's like just ridiculously slow. And then yeah, like every minute, like just watching like the time on your phone change, and yeah, like I just remember just kind of like circling around like the operating suite, just hoping to get like some kind of, even though I know I couldn't see her, but just somehow hoping that maybe they might walk past with her or something. I don't know. Like my mind was just kind of all over the place, just wanting to see it, just wanting to know like what was happening. And yeah, it was a tough day. Like it was, that morning as well. They give you the call the day before to say, okay, this is the time that you need to come in and everything. And then we went in for like the pre-op appointments, and they had that discussion with you, because when she went in for her first surgery, because she was so small, we weren't allowed to go in with her. But this time, because they said that, she's older, they can get quite distressed if the baby can be quite distressed if they don't see their parents. So they said one parent can go in whilst they put her to sleep. And I was like, I can't do it. I was like, I can't see that happening. Like it would just break me down completely. So my husband is the one that went in with her and watched her like be put to sleep. And then I was like, yeah, it was just something that like he's a lot more stronger than me. So he was able to handle it well. Whereas I was still crying outside while it was going on. And then they said to us, okay, it could be about like 6 to 7 hours. It ended up being a little bit longer. So then you just start thinking, oh my God, what's happening? What's going on? Why is it taking so long? Yeah, it's
you
it's
kind of
not an
feel
easy.
sometimes as though it might be handy if they didn't give you a time because every
Exactly.
time I imagine if they say it's well like they said between 6 and 7 hours, as soon as it's 7 hours and 1 minute, I
And
imagine you
like,
start worrying.
yeah.
And
naturally. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and then you think, well, what's wrong, or because again, because we're human, we automatically think, well, something must have gone wrong now that it's 7 hours and over
Mm,
7 hours. But
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So sometimes I hope they don't give a time because
I
it's
know. Just give sort of like a rough ballpark of like, it's an all day thing.
yeah
But I'm the type of person that even like with Anya's surgery, whenever he was like, I would really just keep asking questions. And like it's just like I want to know everything. I want to know like every single detail and everything. And I think like even at some points he was like, it's okay, like we'll think about that later. And I was like, no, I need to know now. Like I want to know. But yeah, like it's a day that like you just can't explain. Like I will remember that day so clearly, I think, for the rest of my life now. And yeah, and then it's like happiness seeing them come out, but then also just emotional to see them in sort of pain as well. Um, which is even harder to see them go through what they're going through. And I just remember her being so like just out of it. She was just like not smiling, just so miserable, and like she's such a happy child. um you know and by 11 months, like it was very different to sort of her being 2 weeks old and her being 11 months old, because at 2 weeks old she was just like a blob basically, whereas at 11 months old she's like her whole individual person with her own personality. And it was really hard seeing her not for a few days be her like normal bubbly, but also amazing that how like a week later she was kind of back to her normal self. Like sort of as soon as we were in the hospital that time for 6 nights, and then like sort of a week later she's back to laughing and smiling again, and then you're just like, oh, okay, did that all just happen in this last week? It feels so surreal. But yeah, kids are just so resilient. Like it's crazy.
yeah yeah absolutely. It's yeah I think because we go through a lot of surgery or generally go through a lot of surgery very young. I think our pain threshold also is possibly a lot higher because
Mm,
I mean, and especially with the type of surgery it is as well. With being stomach surgery, generally
yeah,
it's pretty invasive, and yes, but that's great that sort of a matter of sort of like a week later or so that things were almost back to normal or yeah,
yeah.
which
Like
is
it was our new normal, because
yeah.
then it was like adjusting to life without the stoma, which was really weird for us because I just wasn't used to it. Like the stoma became our normal, and then everyone speaks about that like dreaded nappy rash, like post pull through, which touch wood we didn't experience because we just like I was just like constantly like I don't think I slept because I was just like constantly trying to hear out or listen to see or even just to smell if she had done a poo while she was sleeping. um and I remember those first like couple of like weeks, especially where I'd wake up in the morning and it was just like the room was just filled with like nappy bags because of like how many changes I did in the night. Um, and then just trying different creams. Like I remember reading just all those like Facebook posts and Instagram like posts of like other Hirschsprung parents talking about what they use and what they didn't, and it's like just trial and error again of finding like what worked for us. And luckily we found some creams that worked really well, and we used those, and we managed to sort of get away with like the real extreme stories that I was initially preparing myself to go through.
That's really good. Really, really good. And
Yeah.
that's where social media, I guess, can be really helpful, where you get
Mm,
especially there are quite a few Facebook groups and quite a few large Facebook groups.
yeah.
Um, and it can work both ways. You can have because generally people don't post, everything's normal or nothing's really happening. It's all going to be one extreme or the other. So it's either
Yeah,
going to be everything's terrible, I need loads and loads of help, or actually, everything's gone really, really well or whatever. So I guess you don't really get those
no.
stories in the middle where it's just, things
Like
are
you have
sort
your
of
good
jogging
days and
along.
you have your bad days,
Yeah.
and we've gone through like there's so much to it as well. Like there's been some days which have been great, some days which have been really tough, and just because we may not have had an issue in that, it doesn't mean that we've not had issues in other areas.
Mm.
And that's what I think you have to just remember, that there's so much to this journey, that it's not just a straightforward one. And again, how it just varies for everyone. Like, there's people who have the same level of Hirschsprungs but have completely different outcomes and experiences. And then, yeah, it's a very weird one. Like, no one can tell you that this is your outcome and this is how it's going to be.
No, no, and you're absolutely right. I think, like I said earlier on, 134 episodes in now, and I haven't found two that are the same. So everybody, because yes, the condition may have the same name, or you may have, with there being six different types, you might have the same type as someone else, but you could live a completely different
Yeah.
life,
Mm.
and there will be, and I want to stress this point as well to people, that even though a lot of people come on here because a lot of things have happened, there have been plenty of people I've spoken to, and probably you've spoken to as well, where not a lot has happened,
No,
where
it's very
they're just kind of,
uneventful. Yeah.
yeah, and I've had people on before they'll message me and they'll go, "Oh, my child has Hirschsprungs, and we've had the pull through, and things are going all right." But obviously they don't want to come on the podcast because it would be a 5-minute podcast, and they go, "Well, we had the pull
Mm.
through, and now everything's all right." And
Yeah.
there are a lot of stories out there like that as well. So I
Mm.
guess it's not, yeah, like you say, everybody is completely different. But there are a lot of positives out there. There are an awful lot of positives out there.
Oh, definitely. Like,
Um,
and I like to remind myself of that when, like, there are still some days where I still, you know, like when we had our recent gastro stint in the hospital, where I was just like, why is this happening? Like, what is going on? Like, how is this happening? And it takes you back to that kind of like mental space of like questioning everything. And but then you have to also just remind yourself again of like that there is good outcomes as well. Like, it's not always just doom and gloom. And there are some instances where like families are like having like real big challenges and everything, and like you read those posts as well, and your heart does go out to them, because you're just like, this is tough. And you know just because maybe something might be good now doesn't mean that it's always going to be like that, and just because something bad is happening now doesn't mean that it's always going to be like that as well. Like, it's just, yeah, a
it is.
very,
It's one of those things where if someone could tell you, 5 years down the line, this is going to happen. 10 years down the line, this is going to happen, would be really, really helpful. But it's
I
at the
know.
moment, and I'm not saying that will ever happen, and it won't ever happen. But at the moment, that's it's a difficult one to do. But I'm hoping as more research is put on, because I think there's more research now than certainly I've ever known before. I mean, in America, over here in the UK, there's an awful lot of Hirschsprung's research going on, and people also not just doing research into babies that have Hirschsprungs, but actually, what is life like when you get to teens? What is life like when you get to 20s, 30s, whatever, and just
Yep.
giving people a flavor of what might happen in the future with a variety of Hirschsprung. So not just looking
Mm.
at short segment people or long segment or total colonic,
Yeah.
but just going through um, a variety of different Hirschsprungs, and giving people a bit of a flavor as to what might happen, which I guess is
Yeah.
can be useful.
And I think like as parents, when you hear, okay, your child has this, that's what you want to know, right? You want to know what's their future going to be like, and not just immediate future, because I have seen that there obviously is that more focus on children, but I have often wondered what happens when Anya is like 18 plus, like where, like if she needs support, where will she go? What was she? And I've even like spent time like Googling, like adult colorectal surgeons who know about Hirschsprung. And I had to go for an appointment with a colorectal surgeon just about my gallbladder. And the first thing I asked him, I was just like, have you ever seen any adults with Hirschsprungs? And he was just like, yeah, just in my whole career, one person. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I was more curious to know about that than to know about my gallbladder, because I was just like, I just want to know. I want all the information possible, but it's very limited when it comes to adults.
It is, and I think it's definitely something I want to do on this podcast as well, is to try and find more adults, whether they're my age or a bit younger, a bit older. Try and find more adults and interview more adults and who have the
Yeah,
condition, and see what they're doing, really, because there are lots of success stories out there.
yes,
There are lots of people who are, I mean, there's all sorts of jobs I've had with people on here, with people who are, doing nail technician or fitness instructors or
yeah,
well, mainly
amazing.
actors. Everyone seems to be an actor with Hirschsprung. So if Anya's thinking of a career in acting, there's a lot
I think,
of
I
people
think,
out there.
yeah, I think she'll be pretty good actually. Yeah, I could definitely see her being in that industry for sure, because
Well, she's
she's
got a lot of people to follow.
yes, a lot of like inspiration actually around her. So that's why one thing that I'm very lucky for her, like to grow up to be able to see that and being able to sort of have access to those stories. And I've even just like made like, I have a friend here in Australia as well, and also like in London, another mum that I speak to whose daughters are like, they're all like around the same age. So I was like, it's so nice for Anya to also have that as she grows up, to have like friends sort of even here, and we consider UK home as well, that she can always like sort of keep in touch with and go through that journey with. So she's so lucky that she'll have that network as she grows up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not feel
that's
so like isolated.
yes, definitely. That's so important, because it can be sometimes a bit, especially like we said right at the beginning, when you have to explain to people all the time, and or certain things happen in life and you go, well, yeah, that's because I have Hirschsprungs, and they say, oh, what's Hirschsprungs? And then you have to explain it, and then it goes, on and on and on and on. But to have a group of friends, especially younger, who maybe don't ask, obviously don't ask those questions yet, but even when they do ask those questions, be hopefully just sort of accepting and go, oh, right, this happens
Yeah, like
because
they
you've
just
got
get it.
Hirschsprung.
Yeah, yeah, exactly
That's really, really valuable, I guess.
that. So lucky to, with the power of the internet and social media and everything, that there is that access there. So yeah, like it's definitely exciting, and I am very excited for her future, and as she gets bigger, and like she's, luckily she's, a very special child. She's developmentally, she's having, like, she's doing well. She goes to daycare as well now, so like she has a great time there, and seeing like her little personality come out. And sometimes it's only like sort of when I change her nappy and I see like her scars on her tummy that it reminds me of what she's gone through. Like I don't feel that this condition defines her as a person at all. And I wish I could go back and tell myself that back then as well, that this is not going to define her as a person. Like, she's still going to go on to do all the great things in life and have a great, fulfilling life. And this is not
Absolutely.
something that's going to hold her. And this is not something that's going to hold her back. Whereas initially, I just like all the things that came into my mind. Like I was like, is she going to be able to do this? Is she going to be able to do that? And like my mind was going sort of all over the place. So I'd love to go back and tell the old me, back in December 2024 that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right. There will be parents listening to this in the same situation that you were in,
Mm.
who just had a child diagnosed with Hirschsprung's early on, and first thing that people do is Google it, and hopefully this
And
podcast will come up, and
yes.
and then they can listen and hear that actually 18 months down the line,
Mm.
things have really improved, and the fog has lifted, so to speak, and that actually a lot of those worries that you had at the beginning, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Are they going to be able to do this, that, the other?
Yeah.
Have sort of been, fears unfounded, which is so
Yeah.
good, so good to hear.
Yeah. Like I even remember this was whilst Anya was still like admitted in NICU at that point, and we had just gone out to get some dinner, and I remember like my sisters were with me at that time, and we were just having dinner, and like I just started crying when we were in the restaurant, because I was like, is Anya going to be able to come out and eat in a restaurant with us? Because I just didn't understand like what this condition meant for her and everything. And like, I just remember breaking down. I was like, simple things like that. I even questioned that, like, will we be able to do that? And now she's like, you know, she's like a proper foodie, and like she will be eating something, and then she wants to eat what we're eating, and like generally, like she pretty much has everything that we would be eating as well. So she's not limited in her diet. She has like a few allergies to like egg and like coconut, surprisingly. So those types of things we have to avoid with her. But generally, like she wants to eat everything and anything, which is it's so beautiful to see, because whenever she's like she wants something, I'm like, oh my god, hey, let me quickly go get it ready for you. Hey, have it, like eat. So it's just such a nice thing to see. And yeah, like I just wish again, like that I could go back and tell the crying me in a restaurant that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is so good to hear. But it's been brilliant to see you again. Because I know you've been a huge, I think, apart from my parents, you're probably the biggest supporter of the podcast and liking things and following people and this, that, the other. So it has been great to have you back on
Oh,
again.
thank you so much.
And
Like
obviously,
it's been great. Yeah,
whenever you want to come back on and give an update, then I'm
yeah.
sure everyone would love to hear you again.
I'm sure there'll be more of me. Don't worry. Like it's this world has become like a true passion of mine now. um, like I love seeing and hearing the stories, and yeah, I really enjoyed connecting with so many parents through your like podcast. Different parents that I've connected with and stuff, and it's been amazing. Like all over the world. I have like friends all over the world now, I would say, like, and yeah, it's been amazing, and I really hope to sort of put it out there that like this community is amazing. Everyone is so warm and lovely and so helpful, and we're just so lucky to all have each other in that. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I've said this before as well, that I'm always there if any family ever would wants to chat or speak about anything. Like I'm more than happy to share our experience, and even just be like a listening ear. And sometimes that's just all you need as well, rather than someone telling you, okay, it means this and that. Sometimes you just need to have that kind of like vent. So yeah, more than happy to help in any way that I can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming back on again. It's been great, and yeah, we will do this. We will do this again another time.
Definitely. Thank you.